So I was very curious to understand from you guys' perspective, as a first-time viewer, at what point did the mystery become apparent to you? Was it something at the end, or was it maybe like halfway through?
It didn't really come together for me until very close to the end because it's pretty easy to write like a mystery that seems profound. It's much harder to actually make the ending stick. And I've seen so many movies based around mysteries where that is just not the case, where it's kind of the ending is either doesn't make sense or is a cop out or is obvious or is tried or whatever, right? And I kind of was on that track when Teddy is in the cave with what's her name? Rachel
Rachel, yeah.
2, is it, right? Like that's
Mhm.
where the supposedly escaped scientist or doctor who just explains everything to him about how this is like an attempt by the US to catch up with like the North Koreans and the Soviets in mind control experiments and whatever. As I was watching it, I was not necessarily having the best time because it would all depend on what the answer is, right? So which parts are real and what's a lie and what's a dream and what's a hallucination. And once I knew that, it all kind of clicked into place. And that's where I really started enjoying the movie. And then I actually went back and watched the first 15 minutes again, the parts where he arrives at the island and the guards take him to the prison, and up until the point where they are in Dr. Corley's personal residence. Basically, that those first 15-20 minutes I watched again. And that is masterful if you know what the ending is, if you know what the deal is. And I think I'm gonna like when I have time, I'm gonna watch it again just from start to finish, just to see if the entire thing holds up again. And it was kind of one of my big questions is, does it all hold up? Because I think in a lot of movies, they will often have a clear idea for a beginning and a clear idea for an ending. And then in between, it flails around a little bit more. It's nice to see a movie where so much meticulous care went into the details. And I can kind of trust that there was a plan, and maybe even if something doesn't necessarily work, they at least tried and they took it seriously and they gave it their best attempt. And that's already half the battle. And like the other half is succeeding, but like this is a good first step.
There was just like so much subtleties. Like you mentioned again, the first telltale sign in this film was when he meets Chuck for the first time, and he's meeting him for the first time on the ferry. And I think that's like the immediate clue on this as to, something's not quite right. The other thing, which is pretty funny, is that when you watch it back, you'll see that Teddy's clothes doesn't actually fit him because he's a patient, and they've kind of like just chucked clothes onto him. And you see everyone else has fitted suits, everyone else has stuff that fit them, and he's just in these kind of oversized clothes, which is pretty funny. Another one is that he never has a cigarette, and someone's always giving it to him, and someone always has to light a cigarette for him, and that's because, of course, he's a patient. They wouldn't sort of have him dealing with fire, etc. And one actually very clever one was, and it's a very subtle one, but in the interrogation scene, when he's interrogating the patient, when it's Teddy interrogating the patient, you'll see a guard standing behind him. Whereas when it's Chuck interviewing the patient, there is no guard behind him. And that's
Mhm.
because Teddy is dangerous and Chuck is Dr. Sheehan, who they all know. So there's just like lots of very, very clever details like that sprinkled throughout the whole movie, which just makes it brilliant to watch when you're watching it back a second time around.